You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the first ever OPNFV Summit held here in San Francisco. And I'm joined now by Glenn Seiler, who is Vice President of Marketing and Product Management with Winriver. Glenn, thanks for joining us on TelecomTV.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
So, Glenn, in the context of open solutions for NFV, what does open really mean?
Well, so for us, what we believe is that open, first and foremost, is about de facto standards and using open source de facto standards such as OpenStack, KVM, Intel DPDK, and technologies like that, because that gives the platform what we call future proofing, such that you know that you're always going to be using the latest open source standards, de facto standards. The second part of it is adherence to APIs, the critical APIs that are defined by the ETSI NFV work group for things like management and VNF management. So adherence to the APIs and use of the de facto open source standards are really the key cornerstones of being an open platform.
So when we're promoting OPNFV, we're not disregarding all the work that's been going on with ETSI and the standards group on defining NFV. This is additional.
Well, OPNFV is a separate organization from ETSI, of course, but what we're doing is defining an open source reference platform based on the architecture that ETSI defines, and also using the interfaces from the ETSI organization. And then what we're doing is creating an open source reference platform to accelerate the adoption of the ETSI architecture and APIs.
So who benefits from this? Is it the telecoms providers, or is it the developers who are writing the software for the networks?
Well, the primary beneficiary, I believe, is really the service providers, right? Because we're going to accelerate an open platform to accelerate their adoption and deployment of NFV. But it also benefits the developers of VNFs or applications, because they'll have standardized interfaces which will promote portability and interoperability. So it really benefits the whole community.
And what specifically is Winriver doing to encourage and promote OPNFV?
Okay, so at Winriver, our specialty, our focus has always been around delivering high-performance, real-time solutions and carrier-grade solutions. We have a long history of that, and so that's where we're focusing in our OPNFV activity. So we're active in the KVM hypervisor performance work group. We're also active in the high availability work group. We're contributing code to the KVM hypervisor team. We're also active in the compliance and certification committee or work group, because we believe that that's one of the important areas for a vendor like Winriver to contribute and participate, because of course we want to ensure that our titanium server platform is compliant with OPNFV.
So will all functions, network functions, be virtualized, or do you think there's a limit on how far you can go with virtualization of the network functions?
Well, I believe probably almost all services or functions can be virtualized. And ultimately, that's going to be the way that service providers want to deliver their services and applications, because it gives them so much more flexibility in provisioning, deploying, agility, and so on. So putting a service into a virtual machine, or potentially even a container, gives providers so much more flexibility that I can't see why over time, not going to happen overnight, that pretty much all services would be virtualized, unless there's a really, really strong dependence on some kind of hardware function where it has to be tied to a hardware. But that, I think that type of scenario is becoming less and less common.
And for a network service provider, is it possible to have a commercial grade network, commercial services, NFV services, that are built purely on open source components, or might we end up with a sort of a hybrid approach?
Okay, great question, and that's actually been a big topic here at the show. So I think that I think what the industry really needs is a framework for OPNFV platforms, specifically what they call the NFVI or NFV infrastructure platform needs to be based on open source. Absolutely. Now, at Winriver, we don't necessarily believe that it has to be a 100% open source, because right now the open source community doesn't have all of the high availability and performance capabilities that are necessary for a carrier grade type of platform. And also, you need to have some flexibility for differentiation. If everything was 100% cookie cutter, open source, exactly the same, then there's really no differentiation. And I don't believe that you can differentiate solely in the application. You have to be able to differentiate at the platform as well. So I believe that the best solution is a hybrid solution based on open source, but differentiating where it's applicable in the areas of carrier grade or performance and management.
Final question for you. This is the first OPNFV summit. It's incredibly well attended.
Yep.
Why is there so much support for OPNFV? What is it that's drawing the community together?
Well, so first of all, I've been involved in a lot of these types of consortia over the years, and this is really one of the first ones where we've seen such strong support directly from the end users, the service providers. And that's really exciting, the number of service providers that we have active in OPNFV. So that's one reason why it's gotten so much momentum. The sponsorship from Linux Foundation really provides a lot, because they can bring a lot of value to the open source community, getting the sponsorship, holding venues like this. So I think it's just a perfect storm, if you will, between the open source community, the service providers, and the vendors to come together for what I think is really something that's going to really accelerate NFV.
Fascinating. Glenn, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.